Hi, I'm Dr. Jason J. Campbell, and I want to thank you for taking the time to watch my videos. I want to begin this video with a brief preface, just a small disclaimer on the content of the video. The video will be about the occult and occultism, and I don't recommend that this video is for the average viewer. You will need to have an open mind in order to appreciate and understand this video, and also this video might conflict with your religious beliefs or whatever your religious practices might be, and if it does, I don't recommend that you watch the video. If you don't think it conflicts, or you just want to have an understanding of the occult and occultism, then I suggest that you watch the video. The reason why I give this disclaimer is that as soon as you talk about the occult, people immediately, they hear the word occult and it's immediately like, oh, this is devil worship and Satan worship, and he's going to be talking about and justifying and condoning Satanism and devil worship, and that's not the case at all. Though there are aspects of the occult that do pertain to devil worship and the worship of Satan and other demons and such. What I want to do, and what you should do, specifically, what I want to do is I want to educate. What you should do is you should approach this lecture, if you're still watching, like you would a Wikipedia page, just a more credentialed Wikipedia page. You know, you go to Wikipedia, you type in, let's say you type in demonology, or you type in Satanism, or you type in the occult, and you hit enter. The information that you read it as though it were objective information. You don't think that the founder of Wikipedia is an occultist, or the writer of the particular entry is an occultist, or Satanist, or devil worshipper. Similarly, I am a scholar. I do this for a living. Educating the masses, educating people, disseminating information is what I do as a hobby. This YouTube page isn't something I do because I have to do it. I do it because I want to do it. So with respect to the way that you approach this lecture, approach it just like you would a Wikipedia entry. An objective account of the occult, an objective account of what occultism is. I began and I was introduced to the occult in my research for my dissertation. My dissertation, as many of you know, was on evil and genocide. And I did 2 counts. The first half of the dissertation was a conceptual analysis of the philosophical, ontological, as well as metaphysical conception of evil throughout history of ideas. And I started from pre-Socratic's antiquity and worked my way up until contemporary time. And in that research, I stumbled across a lot of occultist texts, occult references, esoteric texts, and I could not do my research without delving into the occult and the research into the occult. Later, I might do a video series on the art of war, Sun Tzu's art of war. But in strategizing for any battle, in creating strategy, you need to know what your opponent knows. And if my opponent is evil, if I'm a genocide scholar and a peace activist, then I need to know my opponent, theoretically, quote unquote. And if my opponent is evil, then I need to know what my opponent knows. And if my opponent is LHP, which I'll describe later, and this is a gross generalization, but if my opponent is on the left-hand path, then I need to know what that means, and I need to understand how he or she functions in the world. One, not to demonize my opponent, but to have an understanding of the opponent, and that's what I want to do in this lecture. It's not a justification, it's not a validation of the occult or occultism, it's an explanation, objective, hopefully, explanation of the occult and occultism. I've written, again, as I said, my dissertation had references, which I will incorporate into this lecture, on the occult, and mystic occultists, Patanjali, most notably. Also, Al-Biruni, the great Arabic mystic, which I'll incorporate as well into this discussion that I'm about to give. So my reading of those texts influenced my understanding of the occult. And like all people, when I first started my research, I assumed that everyone who studied the occult or practiced the occult worshipped the devil or was a Satanist. And I came quickly to find out that that's just generally false. That's a huge generalization. So again, approach this video like you would a Wikipedia entry, see it as an objective state I want to end my theories with a theoretical account of the occult, because there's information out there on the internet on the occult and occultism, but it's all spooky, doom and gloom, conspiracy theory stuff. Some of which, you know, has teeth, but there's just the one side, right? There's just LHP occult. There isn't a sort of counter narrative. So this lecture is going to be hopefully a fairly in-depth yet introductory lecture into the occult. And again, I don't recommend watching this if you feel like this is going to offend your religious beliefs. You know, they will be clearly labeled occult lectures. So you can join me later after I finish talking about the occult. So with that said, I want to thank you, and I'm going to cut to me giving the lecture now. Okay, so to begin the lecture on occultist theories. So this will be the final section, section 8 of the theory section, and I'll be discussing occultism. And this is section 8. The way that I want to begin this lecture is to begin with the misconceptions of occultism and practitioners of the occultist. If you tell someone that you're an occultist, they immediately, without question, say, oh, well, you worship the devil, you're a Satanist, and so on, right? You can't be an occultist and be a good human being. Also, I'm not trying to convince you that occultists are good human beings. That's not my intent in this video lecture. My intent is to disseminate the information of what occultism is so that you have a better understanding when you're discussing the occult. So in order to make sense of what the occult is, I wanted to begin by discussing what the occult is not, and common misconceptions that people have in a general discussion of the occult. And gradually I'll get more and more specific, more and more analytic in the analysis. But first, I want to begin with just general misconceptions of the occult. So this will be misconceptions. And the first misconception about the occult is that occultism is the study of or a form of devil worship, right? We've all heard this, right? The occult is devil worship. And there's nothing surprising there. I think everyone who has heard the term occult, first of all, I'm sure you're surprised that I'm doing a video on the occult, but you're thinking, well, you know, the occult is devil worship, right? The claim is that that's false, right? And that's not just me saying that it's false, it's categorically false. There are sects and orders within the occult as a large branch of study, and I'll talk about what it is in a second, that do practice Satanism and are devil worshippers. But all of the occult as such isn't satanic, right? That's far from true. So the answer is false, right? And this is what's important. Occultism pertains to the esoteric study of the relationship between human consciousness and non-empirical phenomena. So what's very important to understand here is that when we're talking about the occult, we're talking about our relationship between our minds and non-empirical phenomena, right? So occultism pertains to the esoteric, sort of the hidden, if you will, clandestine, the silent or secret study of relationship between human consciousness and non-empirical phenomena. And basically what happens, and I'll explicate this more, what happens is, typically if we're talking about the relationship between human beings and objects, and I've done video lectures before on logical positivism and so on, the relationship between human beings and objects is one that can be described entirely of empirical verification. V-I-R-I-F. Right? We can describe this in terms of empirical verification. There is one object here, there is two objects here, there is three objects here, and so on and so forth, right? I can see these empirical phenomena, and I can use various methods, primarily the scientific method, to assess the nature of the reality of these objects, right? So I use science to discuss and to validate, to quantify the empirical phenomenon, right? So if science is a way